All right, a lot went down over the weekend regarding footballing stories on the African continent, and today we're here to discuss all of those. The FIFA international window has officially opened, so today we expect clubs, players to begin to, travel for their respective friendlies for their national teams as Africa prepare for the kickoff of for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers, as well as preparation for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. On that note, I welcome you to the Niger Superfans Forum. I'm Ashalolo Afemi and Karagundare and James Agrebi. They are here. So much to talk about. Guys, you're welcome to the show. I hope your weekend was fantastic.
Yeah, Femi, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Femi.
All right. Also, to our fans around the world, we appreciate you so much for sticking with Niger Superfans Forum. Of course, we are cooking something very delicious and we will let you into it as the show progresses. Guys, let's get started. Let's talk about the list released by the NFF for the Super Falcons ahead of the 2024 Olympic qualifiers against Ethiopia. That list, James, I'm sure you must have seen it. There is no Onome in that list, and I saw some people on social media celebrating yesterday. But let's talk about it. James, is this the right time for Onome B? 40? A lot of people are saying no, she's still clubless. But do you think this is the right time for Onome B to say, I'm calling it quits, I've done enough for the Super Falcons?
For me, one thing about footballers is they will not. It's difficult. You hardly see them come out to say, "This is my. I want to." A lot of them do it, but there are those that with. Enome has a lot for Nigeria. She has helped Nigeria to win the World Cup. And she was well celebrated at the last edition in Australia and New Zealand. And though she played a couple of games, but from what I didn't see much from her. So, they just like kind of help her to break that record, and but I didn't see much. So I think it's not as if we should just shove her aside and like throw.
Okay. James, I think we lost you for a moment. Kyle, let's talk about Onome. Of course, the last World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, the Women's World Cup, showed that there is no longer a place for Onome in that Super Falcons, because we saw Ohali and of course Tosin Demain doing yo man's job in that backline. Like I asked James, do you think it is right time? Now is the time for Onome to retire from international football. We talked about Dede Ayew the last time, and of course we've also talked about Ahmed Musa on this show. Do you think it is time now for Onome 40? How many women even get to play up to that age? Do you think it's time for her to say, I've done enough?
Well, if you ask me, I would say the players are like wine. The older they get, the better. But then it gets to a point where the first thing that leaves you is your speed. And once your speed leaves you, then you are next to being useless on the pitch, because younger players come through, they see that you are old, your legs are weak, you cannot run again, and all they want to do is just run around with the ball, and then you get tired and you make silly mistakes. So before you get to that point where you now rubbish all of your legacies, all of your past performances, why don't you look at yourself, take a hard look and say, you know what, I am done. I want to call it a day, so that whatever it is you have achieved in your career will be what people will remember, not the last days of your play, and not the end of your playing days, because that's what most people tend to remember. They will remember you with, oh, remember she was poor against XYZ, forgetting conveniently what you used to do in the day when you were still strong and agile. Of course, nobody has sent you. You should be able to be decent enough to say, no, I want out, I am done. But we don't see that happen too often. We always see people running around until they are pulled out shamefully. So I hope this is a permanent rest for Onome. She doesn't have anything to prove again to anybody. She has done well. She should just go and rest.
Okay, Kayode, before I leave you, we also saw that in that arraignment by the NFF, there was no mentioning of Randy drum. So where is he in all of this? All of this, is it that maybe the NFF or interim manager to take care of Ethiopia?
Well, you trust the NFF to always do the ridiculous, because you should be sure if Wardrum is going to be manager or not. You have to make that decision quickly enough so that everybody can move on. If Wardrum is no longer your coach, tell the whole world, Wardrum is not our coach any longer. We have let him go. If he's going to be in charge, let him be. All we have had before was that he has signed a one-year extension. He has been offered a one-year extension to his contract. So if that's not the case, just come out and say, okay, depending when we get the kind of coach we want, this person, ABC, will be in charge on a temporary basis, or we hope to continue what we are doing with Waldron. But when you put people in a loophole, they don't know what is happening. The players are not even sure who they answer to. It's a big problem. And that's why we are where we are now, Femi, that you don't know. Okay, players have been called to camp. They don't know who is going to be in charge when they get to camp.
Okay. While we are still, of course, trying to get James back on the show.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. So before I come to you, of course, the Super Falcons will be traveling to Ethiopia on the 25th of October for the first leg of that two-legged affair before coming back to Nigeria on the 31st for the return leg of the 2024 Olympic Games qualifier. Now, I don't know, James, you saw that picture where a man of the match was being presented to a Kara United player in their 1-0 win over Abia Warriors over the weekend. I don't know what is packaging that stuff. The producer will actually show it on the screen. We've seen ridiculous things across the continent, award that has been given to man of the match. But this actually shocks me because I've never seen such a thing in Nigeria Premier League before. And personally, I'm ashamed because my hometown club, Kwara United, I just hope that they wouldn't take this against me. I was thinking it was going to be 3SC or even Bayelsa United for James, but Kwara United had to do this to me. James, you saw it. How did you feel when you saw that? Because a lot of MPFL reporters have been, some of them say they are heartbroken that this could come from Nigeria. Whether it is a pillow, whatever material thing is in that package, it is shameful and should be condemned. An award given to an MVP of a game, some said nothing should have been given at all if you don't have anything decent to give.
Yeah. I think I'll quite go with the last statement you made. I mean, it's not by force. I mean, what happens to just little plaque? It's not a must that you do something so massive, just a little plaque. I mean, we used to see it in the European leagues where they just come up with one little award, this thing just give to the player and everybody goes on. But I don't know what they're trying to prove. I mean, when I saw it, I did just like what you said. I didn't even know what is inside. It just look as if one massive pillow or like bag of rice or something. I mean, so it's. I thought we've moved on from things like this. Sometimes you begin to imagine like who comes up with all these kind of ridiculous ideas. I mean, we should stop all this. I thought it's in other leagues in Africa where I've seen some terrible awards given to MVPs. I've seen where they give a player like slippers. Something. I didn't know that we even have our own.
I've seen a crate of egg.
Yes, so just come up with a little play. Just an MVP this to just encourage the players and everybody. You leave the place, but you just decide to ridicule everything.
Let me play the devil's advocate. That award was actually given by a member of the supporters club, not officially. It was a member who showed appreciation for the man of the match effort of that player. So we agree that all the blame should go to the club because they should have done better for the optics, because whatever it is we feel about
what they have for the optics, exactly
poorly on the club. I agree with you guys, but this is just a personal effort from a member of the supporters club. One allergy, something that just decided of his own free will to do this to appreciate the player. I've seen it happen a lot of times. I see 3SC supporters club and out gifts and what have you, sometimes cash to players who have been outstanding in games. See, we should encourage some of this effort. We say we want community participation in our football leagues. So I want to appreciate the donor. But it is now the remit of the club to decide, no, let's package this thing better. Whatever is in it, you could have monetize it and given an envelope or a cash a plaque.
Exactly,
like
that's what I had in mind.
Yeah, I agree. But this is not coming from the club. It is a member of the supporters club who did it. So let's appreciate that effort, even as we knock the club for not packaging it well.
Okay, all right.
Femi, let me just. I think this is where the communication side of the club. I mean, you let people know that. Just like what Kyle said, at least you let everybody know that this is coming from so and so we understand. But the other thing now look as if is the club that officially presented that. So I mean, all this confusion, I think we start doing better. Let's do the right thing so that people don't have this wrong idea that this is what they do in the Nigerian Premier League that they are trying to package. You know, it's a good idea. It's a good gesture from somebody.
It was donated by engineer Olaide Ahmed, a member of the supporters club. So it's not official. It is from the member of the supporters club. Let's just get that straight.
So I want to,
all right.
You know, the thing is just put out the right communication so that people will not go with this wrong.
I agree with you.
Mindset that this is what they do.
Okay, I will have to say that I heard this perspective from Kayode, because even till this morning, a number of Nigerian Premier League reporters who were reporting to that, and none of them brought forward this perspective. So Kayode, thank you so much for clearing that up. Okay, let's take a trip to Kenya now. Over the weekend, a disaster, another terrible disaster was averted in African football in a game between Tosca and Shabani. That game took place in Kasarani. It was like all these fierce derbys that you have across Europe. And before the game, a number of Tosca fans who couldn't, and of course also Shabani fans who couldn't get a ticket into the stadium, they thronged the facility, and they had serious clashes with security operatives that a number of them got injured. Some forced their way into the stadium, and even after the game, Tosca lost the game. And the fans listened to the coach of Tosca. Kayode, this has played out over time in African football. And sometimes you wonder who you would blame. Is it the league, the organizers, the club that have failed to put down regulations?
Obviously, there are no prizes guessing who is to blame. It is the organizers. Because, Femi, it is statutory that before a league game is played, at least I can speak from the Nigerian perspective, you must have certain number of security personnel available. If that number is not complete, the opposing team, the away team, can decide not to start the game.
But we also see teams play, they go ahead to play without that same number of security operatives.
They can decide that they are not going to play because they are not safe. If the rules say you must have 50 policemen available for this game, and you have 49, they could say they are not playing. But sometimes we blur these lines for ourselves. We just say, is it not 49? What is 49 and 50? But you could actually decide you are not playing, and you win the protest. So if the organizers do not insist that clubs do the right thing, then we cannot blame the clubs for getting away with murder. Okay. You have to blame the organizers for not stamping their foot, the authority that, you know what, we own this game. If anything happens, we are going to carry the blame. So we insist that you must have this number of course, that in itself may not stop those who are born to make trouble. Femi, in the days of stationary stores, even if you have 5,000 policemen on the pitch, if stationary stores fans wants to start making trouble, not that large amount of police would have stopped them. But what you can do, let me tell you, Femi, and I've said this over time, is if a club is persistent about causing trouble, whether through the fans or the officials or whoever, you know what you do? Deduct points, Femi. Do not find them monetarily. No, that doesn't work in Africa. But when you deduct points, you saw what happened to Kano Pillars. I'm sure that now the Kano Pillars are back in the league, if any of their fans wants to cause trouble, they will be the ones to hand that person over to the police, because they have learned their lesson the hard way. Staying away from the Premier League for 1 year is not easy, and they are lucky to get back as quickly as they did. Now they will know how to do better. And we have had Kano Pillars as an example now, so it will be easy to deal with any other person. So if all of this, if this is implemented across Africa, you see that we are going to reduce the incidence of hooliganism and violence at match venues.
Okay, we will come back to Nigeria to talk about facility. But let's talk about the James. We saw Tosca fans, like I said, they lazy to the head coach Matano after the game because they lost 1-0 to Shabani. But James, this talks about what happens in Africa and what happens in Europe. If Manchester United fans were like this set of fans, I think by now Eritrea will have lost his head completely because of what is happening currently at Manchester United. So, like I asked Kayode, where do we put a regulation, a dividing line into where fans can react? Because they lazy at the coach, they didn't allow him leave the stadium just because they lost 1-0 to Shabani. So, where do we draw the line? How do we educate the fans that this is what is acceptable, this is what you can do, and this is the boundary?
Femi, I know that we've always come here to talk about African football and how we should do everything possible to make our leagues better. But you remember what happened between Ajax Amsterdam and Feyenoord in the Dutch Eredivisie? Remember, it was because Ajax was losing 3-0 at home. The fans, they had to abandon the game. When they started
destroying their own stadium, yeah.
So you could see that. So this is going to tell you that this thing cuts across. It's just that
so we should cut Tosca fans some slack. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I do not agree. I do not agree. The Ajax fans were destroying pitch and they danger the players'
life of the coach
and the coach. James, I do not agree. I know that you have stationary stores blood in your veins. They did not inflict
maybe it's a Tosca fan. Maybe it's a Tosca fan.
It's possible. So if you are doing that, if you are destroying your stadium, it's up to you. We don't have a problem. Although they should still be fine, but as long as both sets of players are not injured, then I don't have a problem with whatever you destroy. You will be fined for that. Don't put the lives of the players in jeopardy, and the officials too, because if officials consider that they are not safe, they will not be impartial. They want to save their head, so they would like look away at some glaring errors or whatever. So for me, as long as you do not imperil the life of the managers and the players and the officials, you can burn your stadium down. I don't care.
All right. What I'm trying to say is this thing, because I'm not in support of what happened.
Yeah, there's always crowd violence everywhere. If you go to Russia,
exactly.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying,
guys, please let's move on because of time. There's a lot to talk about. Okay, guys, please let's move on. We have someday, of course. Hopefully, we'll revisit these issues once again. Okay, let's talk about Andre Onana. We talked about him on Friday, and there are reports that he's looking at is reluctant to play for Cameroon at the 2023 AFCON because of how challenging the start to his career at Manchester United have been. 10 games, they are shifting 18 goals, and we saw what happened against Brentford over the weekend. And I saw a post online that said Onana must have the weakest wrist as a goalkeeper in the Premier League, because they said even David De Gea at that his age, he will have saved that goal that went in. James, what do you think Onana is trying to do here? Because this is actually from a respectable source in Europe, a respectable publication, newspaper. They said he's reluctant to play for Cameroon at the AFCON because he knows that with what has happened and going to the AFCON, United might be forced to get another goalkeeper. And once the goalkeeper and the trust of the players, because that is another issue. Because Peter Schmeichel, another former Manchester United legend, has said that Onana seems to have lost the trust of his player, of his teammates, particularly the defenders. So what do you think Onana is trying to do here?
Well, that thought of whether they're going to get another, I don't think that will happen, because I believe in coming to Manchester United will be the advice of the coach, because he played under him at Ajax, But I think it's just I don't know. The AFCON, I think the guy is just trying to. It's not something that is confirmed. It's just stories that we are hearing, And if he's not going to make it to the AFCON, I won't be surprised, because I think the issue he has with the Fekafu, the coach, and I don't think everything has really been resolved. If something like this is coming up now, I don't think it has really been resolved. And he knows that what he's going through at United is not palatable at all, because the expectations are very high. But week in, week out, he keeps shipping in goals, and if they are not bashing him, they are bashing these players. So it's all messed up there. So maybe it's just trying to make sure that he make sure that everything is okay before he thinks of any other thing, because he's not really looking good at all. He's one of Africa's top goalkeepers, and things are not really going well for one of the biggest clubs in the world, So, and it's as if now the guy now is not even justified again because what is happening. So if he's not going to go to the AFCON, I won't be surprised. But I don't think that should be an issue. I think what is happening in United, it shouldn't stop him from going to the AFCON. I don't see his place being threatened, because if you say, okay, who's top goalkeeper are you going to get now? Which top goalkeeper is there that the club will now release to United? I don't think his place is that threatened, So for me, that's just it.
Okay. Kayode, do you think he has lost the confidence of his teammate, according to Peter Schmeichel? Because he made reference to a number of instances where it appears that his teammate do not even. He said he was talking about there was an incident where one of his teammates in one of United game, he wanted to pass, another wanted to pass from the back, and the teammate was screaming at him. An infield player was screaming at him to shoot, rather. Do you think that could be the incident? Because, of course, you saw the goal Brentford scored at Old Trafford, and you saw the relief Onana even had when McTominay scored that winning goal.
To be honest, I will not blame him for the goal against Brentford. That came as a result of two things. The goal came in between the legs of some of the defenders who blindsided him, and then because of his reach, because it's a short person compared to the gear, he couldn't have reached it. The guy would have easily reached that because he has a longer wide span. Now, I'm not going to blame him, because you also have to compensate that goal with the number of saves that he made. There was one that he made 2 saves consecutively in the space of 30 seconds. So for me, he compensated for that goal with the saves that he made all rounder, because sometimes people tend to forget the saves that goalkeepers make in a game. They always look at the goals that were scored against them. That's one. And it's easier for defenders to make mistakes than for goalkeepers, because once a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it is often very, very fatal. You don't see there is no correction when goalkeepers make mistakes. But then I must always say that I'm also not very, very happy with him. He tends to overdo this passing of the thing. He tends to overdo it. There are times that you would expect him to shoot the ball, that he wants to pass, and most times when you do that, you are putting your defenders under pressure because they are being pressed already. Then you still want to do all of these short passings that puts them under pressure, and they are prone to make mistakes. And when mistakes happen, goals are scored against you. He hasn't been all that bad as the goals considered as reflected, but you also have to draw a line and decide there are times you need to just shoot the ball. And he has a very good kick, a very good reach. So I was expecting to do more of that. So I agree with Schmeichel that this is not every time, 10 out of 10 that you want to play the ball out of goal. Shoot the ball a longer distance so that you don't put your defenders under undue pressure.
Okay. Guys, let's go to Uganda. Something has been happening over time now about the issue of VAR. We know that Africa has not been able to measure up with other parts of the world in terms of the use of VAR in their respective league. South Africa, I remember they talked about getting a cheaper one, and the the Nigerian Football Federation has also talked about introducing that in the NPFL, but we haven't seen any happening because of the cost. I think about $2.5 million for a complete set of VAR to be used at a game venue. Imagine having that in 20 centers across Nigeria. But something happened in Uganda last week, where a center referee, Muzamia Waswa, he had to use a television replay in an OB van to uphold a penalty decision that he made. That game was between Kataka and Black Power. Kayode, it's funny. A lot of people reacted to it in so many funny ways, but let's look at it. How can we, Kayode, because every time, really, we make ourselves the laughing stock of the world, and people just laugh at these people, where are they actually from? But where do we start? How can we put regulations in place? What can we do in order to, if we can't even use VAR, what other thing can we actually, I think that is what CAF should be thinking about now.
The case in point that you just referenced now, the Ugandan coach was able to even use that OB1 because the game was recorded
The referee,
in the first
yeah.
place. If the game was not
Yeah.
recorded, there was no way it could have fallen back on that improvisation. So for me, I would rather than condemn the referee, I would rather praise his inventiveness, quick thinking that, okay, in order to be sure that I've made the right decision, whatever is available as evidence, let me use it. That's the first thing. Femi, I've always said our games should be on TV. If our games are not on TV, we are just shortchanging ourselves. Now, the issue of VAR, we may not be able to buy top of the range equipment. Femi, it is never a sin to start small. If all you have to do is the first thing is make sure that games are on TV. Make sure that games are recorded. Once they are recorded, you could actually go and check. It will take a little bit more time than the conventional VAR. Yes, it's better to delay by 2 minutes and get the right decision rather than say, oh, we don't want any delays, and you keep perpetuating injustice. So we don't have to start at the top, Femi. We could look to China. Yeah. China will produce whatever you said is 2.5 million. I'm sure that China will produce it for 1 million or less. It's going to serve us for whatever it is we want to do. But then it boils down to even that million or less, where does it come from? That's to tell you that we have just started taking football as a business. If we have, you should have a proposal as the NFA, as the NFF, have a proposal, bankable proposal, Femi. Show it to investors that, see, this is what you stand to gain. If you invest in this, you should see all of these big leagues that you see people investing in, it doesn't come from heaven. One, then two, as a point in time, if government is going to get involved in sports, all the state government sponsoring teams, they should be investing in facilities. You see what Lagos State is doing that people are overlooking. Lagos State is making sure that they are providing facilities at the stadium. You know what the state of Agege Stadium now, by the time it starts getting back into use, you'll be surprised at that stadium. See what they've turned Onikonto to now. See what is going to happen at Teslim Balogun. That's how you don't need to have a football club in order to promote sports. What's the essence of having a football club that doesn't even have a pitch to play? So I would advise that the Lagos model is the best way to go. Provide facilities. Lagos is able to provide VR facilities now for clubs to use. If other state governments will do that, I think it's better than just pumping money into clubs, into Kwara United that will not go anywhere.
Oh, God. Okay, all right. We will have loved to talk about, of course, Kevin Prince, but we'll talk about his lavish lifestyle during his playing days. But hopefully, we'll be able to come around to talk about that maybe next week, because this is very interesting. It talks about life after football for African players, because we've seen the number of them. I'm sorry to say, they look so miserable. They have to live beggarly, with cap in hand everywhere, particularly when they have health challenge, begging people for assistance. We'll be talking about all of those very soon, because that will never grow old. Guys, thank you for coming on the show. Kayode and James, appreciate you so much.
Femi. Always a pleasure.
Okay, so to our fans, like I told you earlier, that we are cooking something on Naija Super Fans Forum, and we will let you into, of course, we will be migrating to a new YouTube channel. So we will want you to subscribe to that YouTube channel much later when everything has been put in place, because it's going to be what you've never seen before. Footballing stories undiluted across Africa. Yeah, that is what we'll be bringing to you. So when the time is right, when the time is come, we will let you know, so that you go and subscribe to that YouTube channel. This is where we'll be drawing the curtain on today's episode of Naija Super Fans Forum. Unfortunately, time is not always our friend when we come around, but on Friday, we'll come around to talk about when a number of African countries have played their international friendly. We'll talk about all of those things on the show. I remain Ashalolu Afemi. We'll see you all. Have a fantastic week. Bye for now.